What's the vibe? How we feeling out there, man? Because once again, we are back for another audio occasion. It is a podcast for self-starters and those willing to make the most out of any situation. I'm your host, D. Burke. Solo occasion again. As I said, it's a lonely road, but someone's got to walk it. So today we're going to kick things off with an audio clip, short one a day, and then we're going to get serious out the gate. Y'all, we got to do it, man. Shit is getting real heavy out here. So time to go for a big talk. Here's what we got for y'all currently.
The experience with major corporations, like me, my particular experience with Beam Suntory, it was great in the beginning. It's great for us to work for them. It's not so cool when you start to own things. You see what I'm saying? So I made a lot of money with them too. Like, there's a point, they did a deal that mirrored what Puffy's deal with Diageo was for Ciroc. So he didn't have ownership of that at any point, but he was getting a lot of money, like almost like $60 million a year. So you see him go to daily on is when you see him have some issues. And these people have really strong relationships. Don't think that the civil case doesn't turn into a criminal case faster because he's making them uncomfortable. That's a big part of it. The spirits business it's not governed. They got a discus board that they created, right? If you got two companies that are $3 billion, you have the experience with major corporations like...
Don't let this go over your head.
And Beam Suntory and Diageo. The distribution level, it's very hard for you to get things to a point where you can do the numbers, the right numbers. They incentivize the sales force by giving them box bonuses. And then when you sell a product, you get the bonuses off the boxes that's there. But you make that no matter what product you're selling. So if you sell Hennessy or Remy out the gate, they start to put downward pressure on the new companies a year.
Listen, man, we'll cut it there. Should get very deep. It's a little bit of a long clip, but hopefully you picked up a little bit of what 50 Cent was putting down on that one. So as always, as we get this thing rolling, the podcast for self-starters and those willing to make the most out of any situation, we will cue up our theme music. As I said, it's just me in here again, man. We got to walk this road alone, but we got a big talk on the way. Starting this thing off, we got to do it. Got to talk about a couple things, address a couple things. Just me, and that's it. But as we kick this thing off, this is episode number 32 of the EFS podcast. If you made it to the audio/visual occasion, please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe on all platforms where we are located. That is YouTube, that is Spotify, that is Apple. Listen, man, keep this thing rolling. We love the love. And today, as you can see, it's just me. Different kind of pod. I know. As I told myself before, though, we're just gonna keep doing these. I like to get to the point where I can just give y'all my perspectives, without Waldo and the Black blabbing off his stuff. Nah, I'm just joking. We messing around. We love the conversations, but today is really just about messaging. As we kick off episode number 32, we will fade out our theme music, and then we will get right into our first topic of conversation. We opened up the audio with a clip from 50 Cent. So we'll just dive into it, man. I'm not really going to go into all the specifics of the charges and the indictment and this, that, whatever. You want somebody else to go over those, find another part. Like, you want someone to go over those, go find another platform. It's out there. The information is all over the news. It's all over CNN. It's all over the timelines. Everywhere you can find out what's actually going on. And, you want the specifics on that, then go ahead and do so. I'm going to just offer my perspective on the situation. We are talking about Sean Puff Daddy, P. Diddy Combs, whatever you want to call him, and his legal cases, his legal troubles going on right now. Would feel remiss if I didn't offer my perspectives on it for you guys. I know we've touched on it on prior episodes, like way back. Things been going on for like a year now. So earlier in the year, we did talk about it on the pod. Myself and Waldo Black devoted a big piece of conversation to it. That's somewhere down in the episodes. Keep on scrolling. I think that one was called "We Do Not Believe You." So we'll double back on it, and we have made reference to him over time since then. But big talk right now, just because it is all over the media with him being in his legal trouble, everything he's going through currently, he's not a free man right now. So he is locked up. So let's get into my perspective on the situation. And my perspective on the situation, it comes from just two things can be true. And that goes to say that I do not condone, do not support, do not champion any of the behaviors that he is currently under the fire for. That being the trafficking, the all the other shit that is getting him into legal troubles right now. The case he had with Cassie, everything that's been going on with that ever since that video dropped. Like, I support none of it. It's nasty. He's just, he's a nasty individual. But we do got to be mindful about how things like that can happen to a person like him. One, if you leave the crumbs out there and you leave the track record out there, then people are going to, sooner or later find out. Whatever's in the dark comes to the light, all that other good shit. But also, judging off of what 50 Cent said, which was kind of like an eye-opening thing. Not necessarily eye-opening, because I have kind of had those views before, whether you buy into the conspiracies or whether you buy into the deeper, darker links of whatever goes on publicly. Like, that's really up to you. Myself, it depends on the situation. I do tend to think that Diddy may be in a little bit of trouble right now because of some people that he may have pissed off, just like 50 Cent said. But again, he can also still be worthy of getting his ass, railroaded for everything that he's done. So there's both sides of it. Like, you can be someone who is a nasty individual who's done some things in the dark that need to come to the light, and then you be exposed for it. But why it happens, you also got to pay attention to, because I think that anytime there is a major black figure that ends up getting put down, there's always like an undertone of some things that he might have been doing to put himself at odds with people who wouldn't want him in certain positions. Mainly like we was talking about with the liquor company that he was working with Ciroc, then going to Deleon and all that stuff, and people he pissed off in the spirits world, which hasn't been like widely publicized and stuff like that, but it's if you know kind of situations. And also maybe him being, in talks to try to buy NBC and all that, really trying to empower himself or his just growth as a mogul, et cetera, et cetera. Like, I do think that when certain people of color who get to, pissing people off, they will find a way to kind of, knock you down a couple pegs. And by knock him down a couple pegs, we might mean like potentially life in prison. That's if he doesn't start flipping and snitching on everybody, which, I do think that probably will end up happening. So we will see what happens going forward with people being named and all this stuff, like the people he's been connected to, the ones who were complicit or just taking part in some of the behaviors and things that were going on. We'll see how all that really goes, but I do think Diddy's in a whole world of trouble. I don't think there's any way he walks out of this situation a free man for any point, with any points of him being a free man in the near future. Sorry. Can't get my words together today for some reason. But I do think he does jail time. How much, we'll see. I'm not too concerned about that outside of all the hustle and bustle that's created online where everyone's talking about it. So, hey, why not jump on board off of my perspectives on the situation? I do find it very, very interesting, the timing of everything that is currently going on. And I do have another piece of audio that I do want to offer you guys to help make you think, just because it leads to another conversation that's a little bit on the heavy side that we'll get to in a moment. So another piece of audio coming up for y'all. This one comes from Dr. Umar. Another long piece of audio, so bear with me on the length and the time of these things, but real thought-provoking pieces of content that I want to offer you guys to open up conversation with myself for. So there we go. Let's get into it.
Sean Puffy Combs' federal charges have little, if anything, to do.
Oh, wait, no, that ain't the one. That ain't the one right there. Here we go. Here's the real one.
But you don't know why they did it at this time. I'm talking about the timing, not just the agenda, the timing. You know why they gave black people Puff Daddy during election season? You know why they gave black people Puff Daddy during election season? The reason they gave you Puff Daddy during election season, the reason they decided to serve
long clip,
Sean
so bear
Puffy
with
Combs a few weeks before the election is they want to distract you from the laws that they are passing. They want to distract you from the policies that they are enacting. They want to distract you from the initiatives that they are implementing. This is a distraction. And because they know black people love to see black people disgraced, humiliated, and destroyed.
That part.
They know black people love to see black people disgraced, humiliated, and destroyed. They said, throw them one of their own.
Mm-hmm.
Let's lynch another Negro today to send all the black people over here while we take care of business over here. This is a grand distraction. They always do this when they're planning something really, really big that they don't want black people to pay attention to. They always do this when they're planning something really, really big that they don't want American Negroes or Africans around the world to pay attention.
And we're going to cut it short there just because it gets a little bit lengthy. It is currently online. I'm sure if you want to hear the whole entire audio of what he said, audio/video, you can go ahead and do that. But main messaging behind that was a little bit heavy. And I do want to open up my perspective on it just because we're in a very different kind of climate right now. And that socially, politically, et cetera, all those things are very tense. And I think that it's time for us to kind of get real on some of these situations. Now, what he said about Diddy, I do maybe feel like could be true. Like, I know Dr. Umar says a lot of things. He's a very opinionated person about just things that go on in public and things that go on in public surrounding black people. So, that is what it is. If you follow him, cool. If you don't, fine, whatever. I'm not, taking offense to anyone who does not buy into what he likes to say or things that he puts out there. But in this case, I do think it leads to a conversation that us as people have to have, because right now, the climate politically and the climate between people who want to take one side or the other is very tense, and I've seen it online a lot recently, people going back and forth about the Republican, Democrat, Kamala, Trump, even back when Joe Biden, before he pulled out of the race because he's not fit to rule anything from my perspective. But right now, I think that there's so many differing opinions, and it's been that way every 4 years, I guess, for the last possibly decade, just because of, one side or the other feeling like they need to shout out their concerns or their perspectives or opinions on, whatever they feel should be the path forward as a nation. At this point, I'm really only here to talk to the black people because I don't think that people who are not black have these kind of concerns often. And I am a black man and I'm a proud black man. I've said that on this podcast numerous times. So my perspective only really comes off of that. And what I just hate to see is us going back and forth between each other about one thing or another, like the people who are for Kamala that think it's a disgrace for anyone that's black to want to vote for Trump, or the people who are Trumpers now, black Trumpers, which is a big thing now, who are now, trying to shit on the people who are Democrats and support that just because of, them feeling like they're staying in the box, and you can take that however you want to take it. But right now, it's just very whack, I think, for all this to be dividing us as black people, just because this also leads to ourselves being devalued in a way. And I mean that, take that as what you want. But I do think that a lot of other cultures, a lot of other races, and a lot of other people are more unified in their overall perspectives. And this is why those people usually garner more respect when it comes to anything political or the people that they want to represent them. Black people can't get their shit together, so we are forever going to be in a position of lesser than, more or less, no pun intended. And I don't want to make it seem like I'm shooting at one side or the other, because I do understand why people don't want to vote for Trump. And I do understand why some people do want to vote for Trump. And that is what it is. I'm not here to offer my political opinion about who you should or shouldn't vote for, but I do think it's whack when we see people going at each other online, or making subliminal tweets or comments online and say oh, I'm not fucking with anybody who's voting for Donald Trump, or oh, you dumb, you stupid, et cetera, for wanting to vote for Kamala. I do think there's room for perspectives to be one way or another, but then to still have respect for each other. Like, you as a person who would want to support Kamala, like, you have your reason for wanting to do that, and that's fine, that's fair. Everyone has their own, like, path as far as that goes, but you can't really shit on someone who might want to try something different just because things haven't necessarily gone the way that they wanted to for Black people thus far, you know? And the other side of it is that you can't also be someone who is so angry at the person that wants to support Kamala just because they do understand that some of the things that Trump stands for are against Black people. So, you know, there's two sides of it. It gets very back and forth. It gets very tit for tat. And I think it's just kind of a point where we need to stop as people and then be willing to have certain conversations, because we are the only community, or we are the biggest community, where the political side of it usually splits. You know, I don't see many white people arguing with other white people about who the hell they gonna vote for. Like, I don't hear those conversations, and I'm around a lot of white people. I will say that, like, in the circles that I frequent and the relationships that I have, like, I don't really hear it much for them. I don't really see it posted online much for them amongst each other, but us as Black people, we've always been tit for tat, and we've always had the crabs in a barrel mentality to where we always need to tear each other down for one reason or another. And I think right now, in a point where we are in one of the most tense points that we've ever been in as a people, at least as far as what's going to happen going forward, you know, with the state of the country, the state of the world, et cetera, I do think it makes us look even worse when we can't even respect people for having one vision, one, like, way of thinking versus another. And I do have the mindset that always, as a people, we should be taking care of us no matter who the fuck is in office, because to this point, there's only been so many strides made that have only gotten us so far. Not to say that there's not been any progress, and not to say that we don't, like, stand to be in a better state now than where we may have been back in the civil rights days and all that other stuff. But in general, like, the only thing that gets respected is collective unity, collective identity. And when we don't have that as people, it's very hard for us to be, like, you know, unified in any kind of way that's going to make any real progress for us in, like, the future, you know? And it's always going to be a situation where it's like back and forth, and then everyone else is looking at us like, ha ha ha, look at them duke it out. And let's just battle for their vote. And let's just put things in front of them that are going to distract them from the real things that are going on to try to get their vote, or, like, just, you know, keeping them deaf, dumb, and blind to where they can't make any real decisions together. So my perspective is, be respectful of others who want to think one way or another, and be willing to have that conversation with them. Because if you don't really have a say in, like, why you shouldn't have a conversation with them about it, what's wrong with it? What's wrong with hearing someone's perspective? And I've heard some perspectives from people who, like, are Black and say, oh, fuck it, I'm fucking with Trump, you know? And to me, it's like, all right, well, if that works for you and that works for your life, cool. Like, it's not that I wouldn't support you if there was, like, a you versus them situation. Like, yeah, I'm sticking with, like, Black people in general, but when we divide each other so much, it's like, it's just too messy. And then from there, nobody gets anywhere, you know? And I try not to get very political on this podcast just because, again, I know it's very tense, and I do want everyone to feel supported, and I do want everyone to feel like they have a voice in whatever they want to choose to do with their own lives. But right now, it's just very messy, man. So everybody just stop, everybody listen, and everybody just take a second to consider, like, what is really going on, you know, in the future. Because politically, one way or another, I don't really think it matters that much who's in office compared to what may be coming with the economy, with the state of this AI and everything that's getting pushed forward, and just where we're all going as a people. I don't really think who's in office is really going to matter that much. So let that seep in. Y'all think about it and do what you want. I'm just having conversation, as always. So if you feel one way or the other, man, I'm free to have those conversations. Drop a comment in the, in the chats. I'll respond. I do check the comments. I do try to be responsive to those people who are, showing us engagement. So I'm open for the conversation for sure. So, and that's that on that, man. So we'll move forward from there. And then we'll start to open up about EFS, because I do think that it's great to kind of give you guys State to the Union with EFS, just because EFS is like, it's always moving, like we talked about before. It's forever like rolling, and I'm still trying to find what the real path for everything is going forward. And I'm starting to have that be more clear in my mind. I did announce a few weeks ago, about myself going into being an online fitness trainer, and then my journey with that going forward. So I did speak on that. But in general, I do think that EFS is expanding as we've been here for a few months now. We're headed towards a year as we get to the top of 2025, which I'm very excited about to keep this thing going. I am, and we are, EFS, the EFS family, are in a place where I think we'll be doing some real good things going forward, as I just touched on, the whole fitness thing, and me being a person who's offering online training now is someone who can be a staple in that market and use that to be something that's growing and more of a tangible thing in a business for myself. I'm happy and I'm excited about what that looks like for me and just the early stages. On that, I have hired a company that's going to be helping me with getting the business side of things in order to make sure that as I grow in there, that I'm doing the right things to set myself up to keep it like consistently rolling and consistently moving. So that company, which I'll keep private for now, just because, I haven't had any clearance for them to be speaking about them, in this kind of way. But it's been real good and just eye-opening about a lot of the things where I'm not too knowledgeable in this current space, as I'm growing and adapting and learning like how to take on the whole social media engagement things, how to post things, like what kind of things go viral, how to set up the back end so that you consistently have yourself in a funnel that's gonna like just be kind of like on autopilot. Like all those things are like very new and kind of exciting for me. Also very overwhelming because it's something that, I have to take on mentally. That's going to be a little bit of a challenge that I need to understand how to attack and grow. But in general, I do think that it's something that I'm looking forward to. And I know you guys have seen content coming from me recently, more so tailored toward that. The announcement, the posts, and everything is just leading into that being a thing. And I like where it's going because I do feel the support from the people that have supported me this long, as far as my followers and the people that give me engagement and just reaching out and telling me like, yo, this is dope for you, all that other stuff, which is, it means a lot, and I'm in a space where I'm looking to grow. So you will see a lot more fitness content on the EFS network. That being the YouTube channel, for those of you who are audio listeners, bear with me on this, and go over to the YouTube, because why not? I know on Spotify we do have the video, but the YouTube is cool too, because you'll start to see a bunch of different things going on there. A couple fitness posts, more training posts, or basketball stuff that we'll get to in a moment. But as we grow, man, just know that the path forward is very, very exciting, and I like where it's going, and I want to be able to involve y'all, the EFS family, as much as possible. So moving forward, as I just touched on, the whole basketball thing is also a part of the EFS umbrella, and you will be seeing more basketball content on all my socials. It started already, and we're going to bring some more of that to the EFS network. If you scroll way, way, way back to the bottom couple first posts on the EFS network channel, whatever you want to call it, they were basketball breakdowns from when I was still overseas playing in France, actually, at that point. Kind of when I knew my career was going to be ending as an actual athlete who was active and playing overseas, I started to play around with content with one of my teammates at that point, a guy named Burke. So thank you for everything you did for me to open up my mind to that, because now fast forward is something that I feel like I'm diving into even more. So go check out those early videos, because those are my first real basketball content videos that are on YouTube, just to kind of open up my my knowledge of the game and how I break things down as a player and things that I feel that are like valuable for other players to kind of understand, especially players who are like frontline guys like myself was a forward. So how I saw the game, like moves that I kind of like, tailored for myself to make myself a great player overseas. But yeah, I think that basketball will be a big thing going forward as well, because it's also something that I offer in my business now. As we've talked about how EFS has been, it started really about skill development and basketball player development. So leaning back into that now that I'm expanding things and growing back into more of my entrepreneurial mindset, will be like one of the main focuses. So check that out. Check out for that for sure as we go across all the platforms, TikTok, YouTube, freaking like wherever I can post, man, you will be seeing it, because I want to make sure I'm growing in that way for sure and taking opportunities that's going to help myself grow in that way, which is another thing that I'm looking forward to most specifically this weekend, because after we get through the rest of this week, this will be out by then, but I'll be taking part in the New York Hoop Schools event that they have coming up this weekend from Friday to Sunday to kind of tap in with some really, really great basketball minds and some people who have been respected in the industry for years, and I'm super excited to get in front of them, man, just because I think I'll be able to pick up a lot of game from them and a lot of knowledge about, what they have to offer, and then also like where I can grow myself in this space and just being someone who makes a mark as a trainer. I've always had a mind and like a passion to work with athletes as I was still an athlete overseas, and then made my way into being someone stepping away from the game and then getting into fitness and all that stuff. Like fitness for me, and I guess I'll tell a story here just because maybe it won't connect with you guys unless you actually know why it connects with me, So as a player, I always believe that the skill work that you put out, what you like bought into and what made you, helped you develop as a player, as well as the work that you put into your body, will make you the player that is effective for a long time, And coming from myself, I had a conversation in the comments with someone about this. Always a game-related podcast. Sorry, I'm kind of all over the place with that. But the game-related podcast, and shouts to them because they've been putting out great content. They had a guest on there, and they were talking about, how things go from being a college player to a pro, or just developing amongst the different levels that you achieve as a basketball player. So I kind of tapped into the comments and was like, yeah, I know in college that I wasn't the most highly touted player. I played with a bunch of dogs. Some of them you've seen on this podcast, like, my friends, my guys that I was in the fires with, the battles, the ones that helped me to grow in the early part of my life and the early part of my basketball career, just to be able to understand competition and understand developing and understand just putting a lot into the game, which can pay so much back to you for the work that you put in. So wasn't the most highly touted player. You can go back, check the records. I didn't average much in college on the point side or rebound side. I was really just a supplementary piece player to a great roster. And my path through my time at Marquette it went from one thing to another. And just being honest, when I was there, I thought my career was going to go one way. Troubling times happened, and I really started to just decide if this is where I wanted to be, but I stuck it out just because I'm a loyalist, I'm a Leo. So you guys know that. That's one of my most strong factors about us, or strong qualities, is that we're loyal. So I didn't want to leave the university, so I stuck it out and took a path of like, let's make sure that my team is great and I can put it in whatever I can to that being like a well-functioning winning machine, because we won a lot of games in college and we were ready, like we ranked top 25 in the nation every single year. Go back, check the records, it's out there. As part of that team, played with a lot of guys that were pros, played in the league, and played with some guys who are like high-level players overseas. Like it was a big basketball university. That said, coming out of there, me going into my pro career, I definitely had to learn how to be a pro and be able to have the mindset of developing my game into a new way so that I could last overseas. So with that, I always believe that, again, doubling back, the work that you put in on your body to make yourself able to play the game, because it's not just about what happens on the court. A lot of times this is things that you do off the court to help yourself sustain and putting the work in to develop skill-wise, because I always had a lot of I guess, talent or the ability. Not even talent, I would say. I always had a lot of ability, but it also needed a lot of work. I was a very raw player. So I could shoot a little bit, I could handle the ball a little bit, I could do a bunch of things. I was technically a tweener, which they don't even use that term anymore. But back then, a tweener was a guy who could play outside and inside and was like maybe right around my height, anywhere from like 6'7" to 6'9" to where they couldn't really figure out if you were a real traditional big man, but they couldn't also figure out if you were actually a wing player. So I know a lot of guys like that came up in the games. Another guy that comes right to the front of my mind, that was a great tweener, and we had great battles in college. Terrell Biggs went to Pittsburgh. He was another great like tweener type player. So that prototype had to fit in one way or another, especially overseas, because the game overseas is predicated around a lot of different things. Ball movement, not so much just like one player having the ball in his hands to make a bunch of decisions. So learning how to transition into a pro player was something that I definitely had to take on mentally, just because I had to hone in on being able to handle the ball better, shoot the ball better to be able to last overseas, but then still be able to be a player that could be effective on the inside, like, a post player technically. And then figure out how to do all that without being someone who was a ball stopper. So made the challenge even more like, a little bit more difficult, at least my first few years, because while I'm trying to develop as a player and add to my bag, add to my skills, add to my ability, I still had to figure out how to play in a system or like a style of basketball that could change from continent to continent just because of what they believed or how they wanted the game to be played. So putting that time in the way that I did, I was able to see myself grow and develop in a big way. So by the time my 10th year in, I would probably say I was the best version of a player that I was going to be to maybe last a few more years. But then obviously I decided to hang it up. But putting that work in for myself, that's when I really fell in love with the development side of the game, and being able to transfer that to the next generation of players was something that I was very passionate about early, which is where EFS started, So that... And then still being able to offer like the off-court stuff, being someone who can handle the strength and conditioning work, being someone who can help someone build as an actual athlete, because again, it is the skills plus the body that you put together to make yourself a really good player. So both sides of it was something that I always felt that I wanted to offer. So, leaving the game and getting into fitness gave me a chance to learn more about that side of it. While still being able to like offer a lot of game on the basketball side, because if I'm just being honest, I've forgotten more basketball than a lot of y'all know. And that's no shade to anybody, just because, it's all about levels and what you've actually seen and what you've actually been through. So basketball like that comes very, very natural to me. The fitness side of things didn't so much. So I felt like I had to really learn. So now 5 years in, I'm like, okay, I feel like I know a lot about fitness, and I tap my hat off to guys that know a lot more than I do. So I'm not, big in my britches to say like, I'm the best trainer guy that, offers a strength and condition. There's some guys that I really respect. One of them I'll mention in a moment because he ties into the story in that lane. And I really want to grow and be able to master, just being a movement specialist and someone who can help a player grow on the court as far as the skill work, and then be able to handle someone who needs to grow off the court as far as the strength and conditioning side of it. I want to be able to offer both. So my vision for EFS as far as business-wise was being someone who can model a trainer who is able to handle one or the other. A lot of times I feel like I did it for myself, so why can't I help do it for somebody else? And, and that's just kind of my perspective at this point, doubling back after my learning in fitness, So that being said, forward to what's going on this weekend. How did I get to this whole seminar that I'm going to? A guy that I respect very, very much from the time when I was really unsure about what I was going to do as a basketball player, and watching his content and seeing him and looking at him, someone I could like possibly model some of my programming after, some of the things that I like would implement with my clients and players after, randomly reached out to me in my DMs. And I still really don't know how it happened, but it kind of changed my whole week last week to where I'm at now and going forward to being very motivated in this space. The guy's Mike G. On Instagram, his actual handle is Mr. Do It Moving. He is a long time, 17 years, which is what I just found out the other day from talking to him, that he's been in this industry doing it, and it's working with very, very high level guys, as NBA guys who, you know, are like really high level people basketball wise. One of his most successful, most recently notable clients is Jrue Holiday. Jrue Holiday has been working with him for years, and the training that he does is a great style. I love the things that he implements, but that's outside of the point because I can get all sciencey and nerdy, and maybe I will at some point with y'all, but he did reach out to me just off of content I was posting recently as I'm like reframing my social media to then put it towards, you know, a certain like growth path so that my content can get out there to the people that can, you know, support me as far as my business goes, and, you know, really like look for me to have someone, me as a person that could help them grow and train. So he reached out to me randomly, and I was like, I fanned out for a minute. Like I even hit my girl like, yo, Mike G just hit me, sent it a screenshot of what he said. I was like, wow, like it's amazing. You know, like I don't know how he found my page, but now I'm gonna take the opportunity to try to like tap into, you know, him mentally a little bit and see, you know, if I can learn something or have him give me some game that can help me grow. So we had a little bit of back and forth, and, you know, he basically told me, like, you're doing the right things, keep posting, keep learning, just taking opportunities to help sharpen your toolkit as a trainer and all those things. And then I just happened to go to his account, and then I saw that he was going to be part of an event this weekend, the New York Hoop School development seminar, I think seminar, whatever they're calling it, but it's a weekend-long training with him, one of the guys, and then other people being keynote speakers. One of the guys that will be there as well is Tim Martin. Great basketball mind. He's worked with a lot of players that I've seen over the past few years. Freaking Tyrese Maxey. I think he's worked with Wemby. Like, he'll be out there. There's a guy from Belgium who's Joe Eric, who I've been following for years since when I was playing overseas. That is a trainer that has like a big basketball brand and like a super dope facility. If you check him out, then you'll see that it's a dope space. And if I was to ever be, you know, in a position to where I have a facility, I would kind of want to model it after the style and like structure of what he has going on. So these are all people that are going to be there this weekend. So I'm really looking forward to going out there and taking the time to learn, grow, and then try to implement some of the things that I pick up while I'm there. So that said, EFS is doing a lot. It's expanding. And as I continue to grow, man, keep on tapping in with me. Do want to make sure that y'all understand off of my like announcement and everything. If you know somebody, if you have somebody, if you are somebody that's looking for fitness help, reach out to me, man. I have consults going to where I can help you like get towards your goals and be someone who offers that. But then if you are a player who's looking for either the strength and conditioning side of things and helping your athleticism within the game, or someone who's looking for the actual skill work, I'm offering that and will be offering that going forward to everyone who is a follower, a supporter of EFS and the brand, man. I know I had a talk last week about the whole entrepreneurial thing and it being hard and et cetera, and then it kind of sounded gloom and doom when I watched it back, but, you know, and I don't think that I gave off a lot of the positive feelings and the positive emotions that come from wanting to step into your own space, you know. And I think that this messaging that I'm giving out here is really like something that I want y'all to understand. Like, EFS is expanding and we're growing, and the path forward, again, it looks very, very bright, and I'm excited about it, man. So tap in with me, man. If you're a supporter, of course, I appreciate all the love in all facets, me being a content person, me being a fitness person, me being a player development person, all those things. And there's so many other ways that I want to be able to impact society that I hope you guys can help follow along the journey with me. And I'm here, man. That's just it. And that's just it. So I'm in a real great space, mentally, physically, all things between. So I just wanted to give y'all an update about everything that I got going on and what's coming and what will be on the way soon, just because it's all happening at once. And as I said, last episode, I've been in a real uncomfortable space this whole year, but that discomfort and that's just the mentality that it's kind of put me in is like really, really amazing. And we shall see how things go going forward, man. But I'm excited to be on the ride, man. I'm living, I'm learning, and I'm growing. And again, my process will be something that can help you guys in one way or another. And I'm just here to be a shining light for that. So we'll close it out here with that pretty short pod, but of course it's just me, and we know. So I will get to offering my quote for the day, and then we will be out of here. Until the next one, when we have somebody back on the couch with me, hopefully Waldo Black, and some guests too, and other things I'll be doing with some content with other guests going forward that I don't want to put out there too much just yet, because I like to have things tailored until I release them to y'all. But yeah, keep on the lookout for what we got coming up, and today we'll just give you the quote. And yeah, today's quote is going to come. It's going to be very short and sweet, man. And it's one of those that kind of just connects with you if you get it. And if you don't, then you should get it, because it's going to help you get further in life. Today's quote is going to be, whether you think you can't or whether you think you can, you are right. So once again, whether you think you can't or whether you think you can, you are right. And I say that just because oftentimes you have to believe that you can achieve something before it actually happens for you. So if you're always telling yourself the negative things that, oh, this is why it can't happen, and this is what's not going to be in place for me, and this is like, all those things are just, they're weights. Once you take those weights off and release yourself from that self-doubt, you might be free to fly as a bird, man. So with that said, EFS Podcast. These podcasts for self-starters and those willing to make the most out of any situation is out of here for episode number 32. If you've made it this far, please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share your thoughts, share your perspectives. I love the conversation. And we'll be back with y'all for another episode up next here pretty soon. Follow along with us, but we are out of here for now. Peace.